Hey guys, and welcome to yet another episode of D3Live. So today we're going to be talking jailbreaking, and there's actually two big topics that we're going to talk about. First of all, let's go ahead and talk about what probably most of you guys are interested in, which is the next big jailbreak. So in case you didn't know, Pod2G, a member of the Chronic dev team, was actually able to find a big bootrom exploit in pretty much all devices, including the iPad, the iPhone, even up to the iPhone 4, as well as all versions of the iPod Touch, including the iPod Touch 4th generation. So basically what a bootrom exploit, I'm just going to kind of do it really simply, that a bootrom exploit is actually hardware based. So basically it doesn't matter how many times Apple will go ahead and update the firmware. Updating the firmware will kind of make it a little bit more difficult, but when there's a hardware jailbreak, whereas I mean the bootrom obviously, but when it's in the hardware, the only way to totally remove it is to actually create a new version. So, for example, like last year they changed it with iPod Touch 2nd generation. So, for example, like the 8GB iPod Touch 2nd generation, that was different because they actually changed the hardware of the device. So basically, guys, just kind of to sum it up, this means that this is great news for jailbreaking, whereas instead of having to wait months or something in between jailbreaks and waiting for them to find a new exploit, they already have the boot ROM, it's all set up, so basically all they have to do is just tweak their jailbreaks, so it's going to be pretty simple. So the tentative name for the next jailbreak is going to be called SHAtter. And SHAtter will, of course, be able to jailbreak, like I said, pretty much anything with an Apple logo and a touchscreen. Maybe not counting a Nano, but pretty much everything else. So this is not going to be a jailbreak me style jailbreak. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult than just going to jailbreakme.com and flipping a slider. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. But in general, it's going to be pretty much like every jailbreak we've ever used. So, for example, Red Snow. If you've ever used Snowbreeze, well actually not Snowbreeze, but it's Red Snow for the most part, Ponage Tool, or a lot of different jailbreak programs. So it'll probably be all the new jailbreaks as far as SHAtter will all have to do with those. So you will have to plug it into your computer and run a very simple program, but really not going to be that big a deal. So as far as when SHAtter is going to be out, not really sure. It could be out here. I'm probably guessing the next few weeks, although it is very possible that the jailbreak team actually might want to wait a little bit and actually wait till 4.2 comes out in November. Now, honestly, guys, I have no idea. I don't know. Nobody really knows. A lot of it does depend on how fast the work goes, because even though they have the initial exploit, you do have to understand that there's a lot of other technical stuff. They actually have to build it up, figure everything out, port Cydia over, all that kind of stuff. So, guys, just an update. The SHAtter Jailbreak will be coming, and of course I'll do a tutorial on it, but it will be just a little while, and it's not going to be anything like Jailbreak Me. So the second jailbreaking story that I actually did want to talk about is the fact that Cydia actually had bought Rock. So in case you don't know what Rock is, which I'm sure most of you do, but Rock is like the alternative to Cydia, where obviously Cydia is where you download all your kinds of jailbreak programs. Well, Rock is kind of like an alternative. Rock did kind of focus more on the paid programs, so a lot of the emulators, the custom themes, that kind of stuff that was paid generally tend to be more in Rock than Cydia, although a lot of the time the apps were shared between the two platforms. But anyway, Rock was the biggest platform as far as Cydia, instead of Cydia. I think this is kind of crazy, but Cydia actually bought Rock. Fairly soon they're going to go ahead and bring all of the Rock applications. So if you bought something Rock, everything will be transferred over to Cydia. But pretty much Cydia has bought Rock, and Rock is going to be shut down. They're going to be improving Cydia, most likely going to be taking a little bit of the design of Rock, maybe incorporating a few things into Cydia. But pretty much Cydia has bought Rock, and Rock's going to be going away, and Cydia is just going to be improved. Now to me, I've been jailbreaking and everything, I've been covering this for a long time, I think this is actually way bigger than that we're just going to have an improved Cydia. To the point where jailbreaking programs jailbreak stores are actually buying each other out. And what some of you guys don't understand is that Cydia and Rock, like for example Rock, which has been out for about a year and a half, has made over $3 million in sales. So this is a big deal. It's not just like a couple guys in their basement doing this. This is a serious deal. So I think this really actually legitimizes jailbreaking as far as when these companies are actually buying each other out and actually incorporating stuff. That just kind of blows my mind. You look, jailbreaking has really simple roots as far as just usually just a few people find an exploit, get set up, and now it's turning into a multi-million-dollar a year industry. And personally, I love that because it just gives people more options. And I mean, all that money, it's not like it's just going away. I mean, it's going into more, better applications, all kind of stuff. So I really am pretty happy, and I think it's a really cool idea that actually, jailbreaking stores are buying each other out. That really just kind of says something to me about jailbreaking. Okay, so in the second segment of D3 Live, I'll be taking live questions. So I'm on Blog TV right now. I've got a lot of people in the room, so we can go ahead and just answer some questions, just kind of hang out a little bit. Okay, so some of the questions, what can the new iPod Touch improve on? That's actually kind of a difficult question. I would like it if some of the hardware stuff was fixed a little bit. If you guys saw my interactive iPod Touch 4th generation interactive review, I had a few little problems with it. I didn't like the sleep-wake button. The 30-pin connector was what didn't really work that well. So there are a few minor hardware things I'd like to do. I'd also like to see them add maybe some more RAM. Definitely, I would like a better rear-facing camera, especially if it had a flash. Not to say that the iPod Touch camera is bad or anything, but it's just really not that great as far as, picture quality is so-so, and the video quality, well, the video quality is not too bad, but I just like to see them just make some gradual improvements. But on the whole of it, it's very, very solid, and I don't really have a whole lot of problems with it at all. Will the new iPod Touch have more than 0.7 megapixels? Yeah, that kind of comes back to the same thing. I hope so. A lot of what Apple was saying was that it doesn't really have so much to do with price as far as they wanted to get thinness. I suppose I can kind of agree with that. Although I will mention though that a lot of the time people kind of get too into the megapixels. It's just kind of the same way where back in like 5, 6, 7 years ago, everybody was wanting the highest clock speed on their computer. But nowadays, you can find like a dual core, quad core, etc., when you have more cores, so that clock speed doesn't matter so much. Well, I think it's kind of getting the same way with cameras. I mean, most of the time, your computer screen does not, your computer screen is not 10 megapixels, so the camera's got to be condensed down. So, really, the megapixels, in my opinion anyway, don't matter so much as the actual image quality. A good example of this is actually the camera I'm filming on right now actually does shoot 10 megapixel still pictures. But you know what? Those 10 megapixel, well, in theory, it sounds, hey, 10 megapixels, that sounds good. But the picture quality is not that great. So, while obviously megapixels are important, and I definitely would like to see more than 0.7. I mean, this is not like, 15 years ago where that would be okay. But yeah, I just think that the image quality is more important than the megapixels. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Would I rather have an iPhone or an iPod Touch like it is now? Well, it depends. I like the iPod Touch mainly for the reason that I'm cheap, and I don't really want to have to spend all kinds of money on an iPhone every month. So actually, I do have another video kind of talking about what my setup is as far as that. It's kind of unrelated, but basically, I like the iPod Touch as far as what it's like now. I'd like to see also GPS on it. That's one thing I forgot earlier, but basically, I really do like the iPod Touch right now, and it just makes sense to me personally, just because it's so much cheaper as far as not having to do a plan. It's really simple to get some other cell phone and carry an iPod Touch with you every day, which is exactly what I do. What is my favorite app? That's a good question. I have a lot of apps. That's what I started my channel as. I was reviewing applications. I don't do it so much anymore, but some of my favorite applications definitely have to be Galcon as well as Galcon Labs. Probably one of my favorite games ever for the iPhone and iPod Touch. I like Real Racing. That's a really fun game. eBoy Fix Picks, one of the most innovative and unique games I've ever seen on anything. So there are a lot of really good apps for the iPhone and iPod Touch. I don't think I can narrow it down to one, though. Is it worth buying an iPod Touch 4th generation? You have a 2G or 3G? Yes, and possibly. If you have the 2G, yeah, I definitely would think so. I myself have a 2G, and I'm upgraded to the 4G, and I'm definitely not disappointed at all. There are so many improvements as far as speed, cameras, screen, you name it. I mean, it's pretty much improved in the 2nd generation. Now, if you just bought a 3rd generation, a lot of the stuff still does apply, and if you have a 3rd generation, it mostly comes down to, is it going to be a big deal for you to afford the 4th generation? So if you can afford it without too much difficulty, then yeah, I'd say definitely go ahead. Of course, you do get a lot of the things, such as the cameras, the better screen, etc., etc. But of course, you just probably likely bought your 3rd generation in the past few months or so. So it's not a necessity, and you're not going to be missing out. It's not like Apple's going to just quit supporting your device very soon. So if you can afford it, I'd say definitely go for the 4G. But if you can't, you're not missing out on a ton. There's a lot of improvements, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Do I think Android can beat iOS? I think that's a kind of a difficult question. That's what I think. I think Android, I like how open it is, and I've talked about this in previous videos, so I won't go too in-depth into it, but I like how open Android is, and because of the openness, it very, very quickly, updates. Now, I don't know how much that has to do with being open as far as just Google pouring millions and millions of dollars into developing it, but I think that one has a little bit more to do with it. But I do like how Android is being able to be customized due to that openness. So, maybe like iOS, for example, iOS kind of keeps out Flash, where Android, that's just fine. So different things like that, just because Android's open and it allows you to do stuff, including carriers to make their own custom skins. Now, a lot of the skins, or pretty much any skin today, is kind of like negative on Android in my opinion. It kind of, just slows it down and stuff. But if a company really wanted to go ahead and do a full-featured Android skin, and not even just skin, but I mean like a new build of Android almost, there's just so much possible. So, if somebody really wanted to take the time and really revamp Android, I think it really could beat iOS 4. Currently, though, I do kind of prefer iOS 4 just because it's very, very smooth. And to get all the openness and all the jailbreaking stuff, you just go ahead and jailbreak your iPhone. So, currently, I like iPhone, but Android is absolutely fantastic. And, if Android just makes a few key improvements, I think it would pass the iOS platform. Wow, this chat is going so fast. When do I think which is better, the iPhone or the Palm Pixie? Definitely the iPhone. The Palm Pixie, it's just in a totally different league. The Pixie's much smaller and everything like that. What do I think about the new camera on the iPod Touch? Again, I've done videos on it as far as the reviews, so you can go ahead and check that out. Generally, pretty positive. I think there's room for improvement. I think it's pretty good. Anyway, guys, that's it for this episode of D3 Live. Apologize, it was a little bit hectic, but definitely, if you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe. I go live. Of course, you can go ahead and watch it on Blog TV. I go ahead live every Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. So go ahead and just feel free to subscribe if you like. I'll put up a video, kind of just letting everyone know that I am live. You can go ahead and watch it. Sometimes I do giveaways and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.